Hey, yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Los. Let's get it. All right, so I'm talking this tonight about Hazakim's latest album, Origins. Surprisingly enough, signed on Wrath and Grace's label, or coming off Wrath and Grace's label. So I guess maybe the rumors about Lamp Mode is true, which is sad. You know what I'm saying? That was just a dope label. Things changed when DJ Essence left, but nevertheless still a dope label though. But anyways, so Hazakim drops his album, I think on the 1st, so was that last Friday, I think, or something like that. I didn't get it actually until maybe 2 days ago, and I've been bumping it literally almost non-stop since I got it. Just, man, by far, just a phenomenal album. It's a breathtaking album. It is. This is a dope album, man. And I say that for me personally, for a number of reasons. One in particular, and this is actually, well, two reasons, but just two reasons. First reason is because kind of like C4 from Kurt Kennedy, C4 to me was just beautiful, and I said it before in my last review and the review of his latest album as well. I love C4 for a lot of reasons, but one in particular is because it gives you a lot of ammunition, right? So when you're talking to someone who talks about slavery, or talking about someone about black power, or whatever it is they're talking about, you might not know necessarily a lot of the history about that, right? C4 gives you the ammunition needed to, I don't want to say fight with somebody, but debate with somebody, right? So you're debating with a Hebrew Israelite, or someone who's just a black power kind of person, right? You can literally go back to C4, remember a bunch of songs on there, like Trees or Walls or whatever like that, and them songs there can actually literally empower you with knowledge, biblical knowledge, and also historical knowledge about what's going on, and man, it'll just help you, and you can, I don't want to say win the battle, but definitely be prepared for the battle, right? Well, this album here to me is beautiful in a sense because it gives you that same kind of information, same kind of power when it comes to this, maybe debating someone from Calvin, or not Calvin, I'm sorry, from Darwinism, right? Or someone who's just a doubt, atheism, but or someone who maybe agnostic. I hope I'm saying that right, but you get my point. Someone who believe there is a God, but maybe not in our God, or believe in a higher being, but not in our God, right? And so this album here will definitely not only have your head bobbing, you got some lyrical dopeness, but definitely give you the biblical and historical and something else I think about. I'm sorry, I'm really excited, but basically give you the tools needed for these kind of conversations. You can literally take what they're saying, back it up by scripture, then back it up really by history or by doctors or whatever, and see, wow, so this is true. Something he said I thought was just beautiful when there's a song called Look and Listen. It's a dope song as well, but talking about the eye, and he brings up how even Darwin says that the eye wasn't a mistake. You know what I'm saying? That it basically was designed. Now, I don't believe Darwin gave God props on that, but nevertheless, he made mention about the fact that it wasn't a mistake, which most atheists kind of feel and believe that the world or our existence as a whole was just boom, bang, it just happened. But that was kind of beautiful to hear that. So that's my first thing I really love about this album. Second thing, so with the first thing, the ammunition it gives you, so it talks about, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's different, each song kind of depicts some different parts of the body. So the brain, the eyes, like I said, the eyes and ears, the heart, blood, water that's in the air, just a lot of things in which those that are atheists, or those that are just really, really bent against God, would try to use to debunk the beauty of who God is, and saying that he didn't create this, he's not a part of this. But then Hazakim does a great job of just breaking it down and analyzing it, and showing you that these things here are not a mistake. These things can't just happen without God. God did these things. I just thought that was just beautiful to me. The second part, which is really sits at home for me, was a family ritual that we have as of late is I get off work for my first job, and I come home, and so we'll eat, lunch, dinner, whatever it is, and we'll just kind of sit down and chill. And then after all the cleanup, whatever's done, me and the kids will and the wife too, she'll kind of sit in the chair across the way, but we'll lay on the bed and the short way. And my oldest daughter jumps on my back, and she's, looking forward. And my youngest daughter kind of sits under my rib cage. It's crazy. And we'll watch videos, right? So we'll be watching. So I'll have my phone up, and you've probably seen some of the pictures anyways on my personal page of us and the kids looking at my phone. We're watching whether it be videos of sharks or videos of nature or videos of just whatever, just videos, and they're asking questions, right? They're always pondering like, why is this way, Dad, and what's going on with this here, Dad, and just a break from the from cartoons and the reality of whatever that they'd be watching and stuff. Just a great time for us to talk and for them to ask questions and me to find some way to point this back to Christ, the beauty of the gospel and the way God made everything, right? It's just a beautiful time for us. Well, one wrestle that I've had since before my first was born was a prayer was like, Lord, how am I going to present the gospel to my kids? Like, you give me a young teen, a teenager, a young adult, a full adult, whatever, a senior adult, or a senior citizen, or whatever. By God's beautiful grace, I can convey the gospel. I'm good with that. The Lord's graced me with that ability, and that's just beautiful, right? But my oldest is 5, my youngest is 2, and so I don't know how to convey the gospel to them in a manner where it will make sense to them, and that's always been a wrestle for me. Always been a prayer for me, like, Lord, please help me with that so I can do that, right? And as my wife and I was listening to this album yesterday, I smiled, and she's like, what's up? And I told her, I said, yo, I can use this album here, and we can sit down and talk about the eye, right? And then talk about how God made the eye, how God placed the particles or the elements and everything to make the eye what it is now. And then, oh babe, we can talk about the blood and how the blood was designed by God. And it's just, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm making much sense, but I'm making beautiful sense to myself. It's just basically this album, what it does, or what it's going to do, praise God, is give me the opportunity to sit with my kids, hear this song, talk about what this song is talking about, and then maybe find a video pointing out these beautiful nuggets, which the song talks about the eye, the heart, the lungs, and whatever, the water as it falls, life in itself, and hopefully by God's grace somehow, some way use that as a tool to point them to Christ even the more outside of what we already do. I'm so looking forward to it, man. This album is just dope. To me, those are two important things in my life as to what I desperately need and want, and I praise God for these brothers, man. I am fairly new to Hazakim, and let me explain what I mean by that. I mean, new is in the level of I didn't really get Theopodes. I mess that up all the time. Y'all know what I'm talking about. My bad. I didn't get that album because when it came out, right, I was still very charismatic. And even in my hip hop, I was still kind of really West Coast. I was still kind of not really West Coast, but it was a West South, and I was definitely East, but more so West South, and East was growing on me, right? But their style didn't really fit with me, right? I wasn't really feeling their style. So and plus I'm very charismatic, and so I want the jump up, the happy, whatever kind of rap or whatever. So my dude, by God's grace, the Lord reformed him first. And so he had this big huge CD case, man, and he was like, yo, check these cats out. And so I got that album, Theopodes, whatever. There you go. Hey. So I'm listening to that album, and I look back now like, yo, they were speaking truth. That was dope. But then I was kind of like, I'm not really feeling them. I didn't really like them, whatever. It wasn't until on Cross Movement's very last album, Our Story in History, on the last cipher, when Fanatic does his verse, and he says, and I'm gonna mess it up, but basically he says he's waiting for Hazakim's Theopodes Part 2 or something on the lines like that, right? He makes mention of them in that song, and Fanatic is one of my favorite MCs, and I just said, wait a minute. So Fanatic rock with these cats, huh? Okay, let me go back and check who they are. And I didn't go back to Theopanies, but I went to some other songs. I heard them on other features, whatever, because they're Latin artists. So I just got wild, started getting intrigued by their knowledge. Then I found out that they're Messianic Jews, which basically means Jews that believe in Christ's first coming. And I love that. And I was like, wow, okay. So then, learning more history about them and what the Jews stand for, how the Jews see life, and so on and so forth, and just made me just fall and just in deep in love with these cats, man. Just their gifting and what the Lord has been doing in and through them since whenever. And so I just got really intrigued with them. And then Latmo did this one thing, I think it's called the couch or something like that, basically, where it switched every once in a while, but it was Timothy Brendo, Hazakim. I don't know sure if both was there, they're twins, so I get mixed up, my bad. But I think they're twins. Yep, they're twins. We'll go with twins. But it was Brendo, Levites, one or two, Hazakim, Jason, God's servant, and a bunch of other cats, Shailin, and basically Latmo, you know what I'm saying? The core group members of Latmo. And so they would, sit around and just talk about, their favorite MCs or scriptures or sermons or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And they would talk, and I got to hear their heart. And they said something that blessed me that I thought, and I'm gonna mess this up, and I'm sure y'all, if y'all saw, you know what I'm talking about. But there was a topic, I think, about, was it reform? It was a top. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Should have prepared for this one. I'm just, it hit me now. But there was a topic that Shy had brought up, right? And I want to say it was about reform. Either way it was, they wasn't connected with it, right? They didn't agree with it. Actually, I don't think they even knew about it at the time when Shy brought it to their attention, brought it to the table, and that blessed my heart, man. And they even said, one of them even said, it's good to know this because everyone thinks that all Latmo artists are on the same page, but really they're not in this context here. And that blessed me, one, that they were open about, this is what I believe, what I don't believe in, and although we may rock together, I don't believe what you believe. I don't know, I might sound corny, but I really was encouraged by that. Their honesty, just the dopeness of them, and the knowledge they provide, and the fact that it was honest enough to say, although I rock with y'all, so we don't necessarily walk on the same page on everything. And I just found that just amazing to me. But so the only album I actually heard before this one here was Son of Man, and that was just an eye-opening album to me, man. I love that album, man, and it made me mad at myself, the fact that I hadn't really heard of anything. I hadn't heard the first album of these dudes. The Son of Man to me was just a phenomenal album. Like literally almost every song. I think my favorite song on that is was it Time Zone? Time Zone is just dope. Time Zone to me is just dope. Full Circle is dope as well. Full Circle actually opened my eyes. I've read both passages before, speaking about Abraham and Isaac going to the mountaintop, and the Lord promising to leave a lamb for the sacrifice, but it ended up being a goat up there. And then this full circle comes around to Christ being the lamb that was sacrificed. And I had never put the two and two together, and it was just beautiful to see that. Like, this is mind-blowing. I love that on the song Full Circle. But Time Zone to me was beautiful because in a lot of ways this album here reminds me of that song, which is just one of my favorite songs, because in that song they walked through the conception to the death of a person, right? So they start off with, not being graphic of course, but basically, boom, the spark is sparked off inside the mom, and basically they break down what the child is going through, and all the child is enduring while in there, and how the child's body is being formed, and they just kind of just go through beautifully. And then they talk about the birth, and then the kid, I keep saying kid, so sorry, but the child is going through adolescence, and then he grows up, and then it just really walked through that step, that process from, like I said, from conception to death, and I think it's beautiful to me because they're showing you pretty much how the Lord has orchestrated all things to happen, how God is in the midst of all things, and how God is the one controlling and developing and designing all these things. So then we get to this album here, right, where that's literally the point of the album, where it's basically your eye, like I said, your eye is not a mistake. It didn't something that just happen to happen. No, God designed your eye to work like it works. This a creative designer is in the works with your body. Your blood moves how it moves, and there's some things like he's talking about the blood. Like I had never fathomed, and it's just like, you know, just your mind. I don't think I knew that the mind didn't have feelings. I didn't think I knew that. I think I always assumed that the brain would have feelings. That just makes sense to me. But it's just banging to hear that it didn't. And just there's a bunch of stuff on this. I'm just like, yo, and I felt like I wanted to go home. Kids were sleeping in the back. I'm like, yo, let's go study right now. Let's get in there right now. I got so much Daddy want to show you guys so much. It's just beautiful to me, man. Real talk. And I'm sorry I'm getting really excited, but it was just a beautiful thing. And then also it makes you just rejoice in the Lord all the more. Like right now it's raining right now, right? And there's a song called Let It Pour on the latest album, and it's talking about how much force it takes and how the complexity of what it takes to make it rain, you know what I mean? Like literally rain. And it's just beautiful how they break that down, man. It's a dope album, man. Just a dope, and the production is dope. And which cats don't really, I don't know if anybody caught this or not, but there's a song on the album called It Was Good. And that the beat on that song there is the same beat used when, I ain't like this cat, yo. Was it Russian? Roslin? Whatever that dude name is, I don't know. Him, right? When he basically, when Shaolin, y'all remember Shaolin's on Still Jesus, where he made a reference to Tripoli about all that, and kind of talking about reach. And so then him felt necessary. Nobody was talking to Boy, but he felt it important to jump into the argument, right? And then, and we know Shy, you know, so he's a calm, cool, collected kind of dude. He ain't really going, you know, get in the rah with you. Hazakim don't care. No sir. And so I don't know if it was Mike or Tony, one of the two, but one of them is like literally the wrath and the grace of each other. Like for one is wrath, one is grace. Whichever one's wrath was the one jumped on this track here, and he just went in. Boy went in to the point that they had to have a phone conversation. And then it was like promised, like, hey, take this off the web. I searched for this review here because I wanted to hear it again. But for two, I was like, yo, I gotta hear that joint again. So for reference and just want to hear it again. And I couldn't find it. And they had to get rid of that joint and killed it. Anyways, my point is not to bring that back up because I guess they promised that everything's good now. But I like that. Anyways, so the same beat for It Was Good was used for that Roslin diss joint. Also, we used that beat for one of the 16 bar challenges, just, you know, something I throw out there as well, which was a dope challenge as well, dope beat. But my point is the production of this album is just phenomenal. It's not too, and this is not a diss, but it's not too Lecrae flashy, but it's also not too what you would expect normally from Lamp Mode, where it's just kind of just laid back and the production has no power, right? The production, to me, was Lifeblood or True Blood? The one about the blood. I think that production there was just, it just came with it, man. They came with it. It just overall, man, there's really not too much negative about this album. I think the only song I didn't like, and I use that very loosely, is, or the production or whatever, really just the style and the whole, the song Origins. The very first song you hear, it took me a second or two, actually 2 or 3 turns here in the album to really let that kind of sit on me. Like, okay, this is cool. You know, as I'm hearing it actually on the first go around, I wanted to skip that song. I didn't like that. I just didn't like how that. I don't know. I didn't like how it felt. I didn't like how it came across. Although it was beautiful, everything was said was dope. I didn't like the rap format, nor did I like the production on it. But as time went on, it kind of grew on me. I'm like, okay, this is dope. I'm just a fan of this album. Big fan of this album. I think that I'm almost at 20 minutes. I'm so sorry, y'all. I just think they did just an amazing job on presenting us with this gem, and I praise God for him, for real. Just dope, man. You can't stream it, which is beautiful in itself, sorta. But so you gotta support. You gotta go buy it, man. And I beg you, man, please. You are missing out if you don't buy this album. You are missing out. This is just a dope album. I think, to me, what outside of the beauty of Christ and what it does, one thing that makes this album to me just super, super dope is the fact of the time they put into just to each song, each lyric. How I love how they man, they went into detail. Like, it's like they're sitting there just dissecting the body. So the amount of research they had to have gone through, the amount of time of studying biology as well as scriptures, and then linking it in together, hands down, man, just beautiful. Millennial is a dope song as well. I agree. I'm sure that's going to spark something, which is fine. I think they did a great job explaining that as well. Yeah, that's going to spark something, which is cool with me. But I just, man, overall, man, it's a dope album. I really don't have any, outside of what I said about Origins. Was there anything else I didn't like? I think for the most part, man, I'm just an overall fan of the album. I think for the most part, I am just ecstatic with the album and can't wait to listen to it again. I'm about to hold off because Barsman just dropped their joint, and so actually I'm doing this review now a day earlier than I had planned on it because I wanted to do one more listen to it to get one more feel for it, but the homies dropped Barsman, and so I'm like, yo, gotta get on that real quick, like ASAP. And so yeah, I'm definitely listen to it again. I'm just saying why not listen to it right now. But overall, not to go do my countdown thing, whatever. I usually do the whole, buy or stream. This is definitely a buy because you can only buy it. But definitely, even if you could stream it, I would beg you, cry out, please do not stream this joint, man. Buy it, support them. I always get them confused. Like I said earlier, Mike or Tony, one of the two, has an actual. This is not disrespectful, my bad, but has an actual job. The other one is does music full time. That sounds foul, but hey, I'm sorry. One actually works, and the other one, does, I think, accounting or something like that. So my point with that is, this is not their main source of income. But I mean, we got to support these dudes, man, because they're dropping dimes, man. And another thing I love, Son of Man. I know they had another album between Son of Man and this one here. I didn't hear that album, and I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't hear that album. I don't know what was going on with my life at the time, but I didn't hear that album. But Son of Man dropped at a time where, Lecrae and them was it's not a bash of Lecrae, but Lecrae and them and people like Lecrae was talking about, oh, you really can't go quote unquote platinum doing Christian hip hop or talking about the Lord on the extent of how Reformed theology does, right? You can't make a living, off of in Christian hip hop on that level, right? But then Son of Man charted. And I remember posting about that, like, Lecrae saying this and that, blah, blah, but then we get Son of Man, and Son of Man actually goes to the Billboard chart. This Billboard, it was some chart, sorry, I don't remember which one it was, but it charted, you know what I'm saying? And so, that just goes to show that, you can. So, anyways, but overall, man, like I said, I'm just rambling. Loved it, man. Praise God for these brothers, man. Man, phenomenal. Wrath and Grace is doing it. Just dope, man. But anyways, go get the album. Real talk. All right, y'all. Grace.